In 2018, Oprah Winfrey made a move that shocked Wall Street and silenced critics who claimed she'd peaked decades ago. With a single signature, she invested $30 million into a company few had ever heard of, Weight Watchers International. Within months, the company's stock price soared over 200%, and Oprah pocketed over $100 million in profit. But this wasn't luck. It was strategy, the culmination of decades of quiet business mastery. Most people still see Oprah as the TV host who gave away cars, but what they don't see is the empire she built behind the curtain, one that controls streaming, publishing, real estate, and media equity across some of the world's biggest corporations. This is the story of how a talk show queen became a corporate titan, how a woman from rural Mississippi turned authenticity into a billion-dollar business model, and how that single $30 million play revealed the secret system she's used all along. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why Oprah's brand isn't just media, it's influence, trust, and timing, and why her $30 million move wasn't just about profit, it was about power. Before the billions, before the headlines, there was a dirt road in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, where a little girl named Oprah Gail Winfrey read the Bible aloud to farm animals because no one else was listening. She was born in 1954 to a teenage mother and a soldier father she barely knew. Poverty wasn't just her environment, it was her reality. She wore potato sacks as dresses, walked barefoot to school, and shared one room with her grandmother in a wooden shack. But even in that silence, she had one weapon: her voice. At age 3, she was reciting Bible verses at church. By age 12, she dreamed of becoming a teacher. By 17, she'd won a scholarship to Tennessee State University. And soon after, she became Nashville's first black female news anchor. The path was brutal. She was demoted for being too emotional on air, but that same emotion later became her superpower. She learned that connection could outperform presentation, that truth could outshine perfection. In the late 1970s, Oprah moved to Baltimore, hosting a talk show that local critics called too raw. But audiences loved her. Ratings doubled within months. Producers had never seen a host who could make strangers cry on camera without a script. That was the moment a pattern began. Empathy as currency, authenticity as leverage. The same formula that would later turn into billion-dollar equity plays started right there, behind a small studio microphone in Baltimore. By 1984, Oprah's talent had outgrown local television. She was offered a struggling talk show in Chicago called AM Chicago. It aired opposite Phil Donahue, the king of daytime talk. The odds? Nearly impossible. But within 3 months, AM Chicago went from last place to first in ratings. Audiences weren't just watching, they were connecting. She wasn't performing for the camera, she was inviting it in. When national syndicators came calling, Oprah made a decision few had dared to make. She wanted ownership. Not just a paycheck, not even a host credit. Full control. So in 1986, she formed Harpo Productions, Oprah spelled backward, a move that would quietly change entertainment forever. Harpo became the production company behind The Oprah Winfrey Show, giving her rights to the show, the advertising profits, and global syndication deals. Most hosts worked for studios. Oprah owned hers. By 1993, The Oprah Winfrey Show was broadcast in over 100 countries. By 1998, annual revenues from syndication exceeded $125 million. And through Harpo, she didn't just earn a salary, she built equity. Every major brand wanted a segment on her show, and every story carried her seal of trust. That trust became her most valuable asset, one that later fueled partnerships with Weight Watchers, Apple, and Disney. The real secret of Oprah's empire wasn't fame, it was ownership. She turned her name into an institution. Her voice became intellectual property. Her show became a financial machine. And with that, the girl who once read to farm animals now read contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars. When most CEOs talk about influence, they speak in terms of metrics, clicks, or conversions. But Oprah built hers on something intangible: trust. In an era when television was about spectacle, she chose sincerity. She listened, cried, and sometimes even broke down on air. That vulnerability connected her to millions who saw her as not a celebrity, but a reflection of themselves. By the 1990s, this emotional connection had become a measurable asset. Her book club could turn an unknown author into a bestseller overnight. Her endorsement could sell out a product nationwide. And marketers began to call it the Oprah effect. Economists analyzed it. One Oprah's book club recommendation could increase a title's sales by over 500%, according to Business Insider in 2008. In one famous case, author Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth sold more than 3.5 million copies after her feature in 2008. But Oprah never viewed it as influence. She saw it as service. Her brand wasn't built on persuasion, but participation. People didn't follow her because she was rich. They trusted her because she was real. Behind the scenes, advertisers and studios took note. Every major brand wanted Oprah's approval. Every partnership negotiation began with one unspoken question: would this protect her authenticity? She understood something most billionaires still miss. Empathy is scalable. The currency of attention changes, but the currency of trust doesn't. Oprah didn't just sell products, she sold belief. That belief became a billion-dollar asset. By the early 1990s, Oprah wasn't just a host, she was an institution. But behind every great institution lies infrastructure. In 1990, she broke another industry rule by purchasing a massive production campus in Chicago's West Loop, transforming it into Harpo Studios. The name itself, Oprah spelled backward, symbolized her vision to own every angle from production to distribution. Inside those walls, everything was built under one philosophy: control your content, control your destiny. Harpo became a media fortress. The Oprah Winfrey Show, Dr. Phil, Rachel Ray, The Dr. Oz Show, all were born under the Harpo umbrella. Each show carried Oprah's DNA: empathy, expertise, empowerment. But more importantly, they carried ownership. Between 1993 and 2011, Harpo produced over 4,500 episodes of television content. At its peak, Harpo employed more than 400 full-time staff, generating an estimated $150 million in annual revenue. But Oprah didn't stop at shows. Harpo expanded into film with Beloved in 1998, and later Precious 2009, both nominated for Academy Awards. These projects weren't box office gambles, they were statements of purpose. Harpo wasn't a company. It was a creative fortress designed to protect one thing: Oprah's voice. Every script, every edit, every broadcast passed through her hands. While other stars rented their fame, Oprah built real estate around hers, brick by brick, beam by beam. And inside Harpo's main stage, engraved on a plaque, were 3 words that defined her entire empire: "The next chapter begins." By the early 2000s, Oprah had achieved what no television host ever had. She turned empathy into equity. Her talk show alone was bringing in more than $300 million a year in revenue. But the real genius wasn't in the paycheck. It was in the ownership. In 1998, her net worth crossed $400 million. By 2003, Forbes officially declared her the first Black female billionaire in history, with a net worth exceeding $1 billion. But Oprah didn't stop. She reinvested, diversified, built a brand portfolio that would make Wall Street look twice. She acquired major stakes in Oxygen Media, later sold to NBC Universal for $925 million, and partnered with Discovery Communications to launch OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network. OWN was more than a channel. It was a cultural landmark, a place where stories of hope, healing, and humanity were broadcast 24 hours a day, backed by Oprah's message of purpose-driven success. By 2010, Oprah's empire wasn't measured in ratings. It was measured in assets, media networks, production rights, book clubs, and global influence that could move markets overnight. When Oprah spoke, industries listened. When she endorsed a book, it sold millions. When she interviewed a world leader, the markets trembled. Her investments weren't random, they were strategic statements. In 2015, she took a 10% stake in Weight Watchers, WW, instantly increasing the company's value by $700 million in a single week. Oprah had evolved from host to mogul, from storyteller to shareholder, and in doing so, she shattered centuries of financial ceilings. When the Oprah Winfrey Network launched on January 1, 2011, expectations were sky high. After all, this was Oprah's next big leap, her own television network, backed by Discovery Communications and powered by her brand of hope and authenticity. But success didn't come easy. OWN's first few years were chaotic. Low ratings, scattered programming, and internal confusion left viewers unsure what the network stood for. The woman who built empires on connection suddenly faced disconnection. By 2012, analysts were calling OWN Oprah's biggest misstep. Discovery had poured over $300 million into the network, but losses were mounting fast. Oprah herself later admitted, "If I had known how hard this would be, I might have done something else." It was a humbling moment. But here's the part most people miss. Oprah didn't run. She reinvented. She moved full-time to Los Angeles, took over day-to-day control, and began reshaping the network from scratch. The strategy? Return to purpose. Instead of chasing entertainment trends, she filled OWN with stories that healed. Shows like Super Soul Sunday, Ion Love, Fix My Life, and Greenleaf. Authentic, emotional, and deeply human. Slowly, the numbers shifted. Viewership grew. Advertisers returned. By 2016, OWN was finally profitable, pulling in over $100 million in annual earnings. In 2017, Discovery increased its ownership stake, valuing the network at over $800 million. A project once labeled a failure became one of television's most admired turnarounds. Oprah later said, "Failure is another word for energy. It's data telling you where not to go." She didn't just save a network, she reaffirmed her identity as a leader who could turn crisis into creation. OWN became her digital temple, a modern space where purpose met profit. And once again, Oprah proved that the heart of her empire wasn't built on shows or studios, but on vision that refused to die. 2000s. Oprah's influence had evolved into something the world had never seen before. She wasn't just a talk show host anymore. She was a cultural economy unto herself. Analysts began calling it the Oprah effect, a phenomenon where a single mention, recommendation, or gesture from Oprah Winfrey could transform a product, a person, or an idea overnight. In 1996, she launched the Oprah's Book Club, and within months, unknown authors were selling millions of copies. Books like The Deep End of the Ocean and A Fine Balance became instant bestsellers, not because of marketing budgets, but because Oprah said, "You must read this." Economists estimated that a single Oprah Book Club endorsement could generate up to $80 million in additional sales, a ripple effect that publishers called the golden nod. But it wasn't just books. When Oprah mentioned a product on her show, from skincare brands to spiritual teachers, businesses exploded overnight. In 2008, when she introduced the world to Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, the book sold over 3.5 million copies in just 4 weeks. A spiritual teacher's audience became global in one evening, simply because Oprah believed his message mattered. That's when Wall Street began to notice. Oprah's influence wasn't emotional, it was economic. Marketing analysts began measuring brand impact through what they called OQ, Oprah Quotient. It represented the financial value of her recommendation. Between 1996 and 2010, her book club generated more than $1 billion in total publishing revenue. Every appearance, every word, every smile carried measurable value. She had built an empire where trust itself was a currency. And Oprah was the global mint. This was the birth of the influence economy, long before social media ever existed. Oprah didn't need algorithms or hashtags. She built her own digital gravity powered by authenticity, amplified by humanity. Her secret? People didn't just follow her, they believed her. And belief, as Oprah proved, is the most valuable currency in the world. The philanthropic empire of Oprah's $400 million mission to educate and empower. As her empire grew, Oprah began asking herself one question: what good is success if you can't share it? She had conquered television, film, publishing, and business. But in her heart, she believed her greatest achievement would be measured not in dollars, but in lives changed. Over the past 3 decades, Oprah Winfrey has donated more than $400 million to education, leadership, and empowerment initiatives worldwide. But her most powerful contribution began in South Africa, a land scarred by apartheid, yet alive with possibility. In 2007, she opened the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in Henley-on-Klip, a $40 million investment built on a dream to give bright, underprivileged girls the same opportunities she once prayed for. The school wasn't just classrooms and uniforms, it was hope with a roof over it. Oprah personally handpicked many of the first students, mentoring them like daughters. She said, "These girls will be the future presidents, scientists, and thinkers who change Africa forever." Today, graduates of that academy attend some of the world's top universities, Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, carrying Oprah's vision far beyond South Africa's borders. But her generosity didn't end there. She funded scholarships for over 400 U.S. students, built libraries, supported disaster relief in Haiti and New Orleans, and invested in mental health initiatives for women across the globe. Every project reflected her belief that education isn't charity, it's liberation. In 2018, Oprah launched the Oprah Winfrey Charitable Foundation, expanding her reach into new areas of social justice, housing, and healthcare. By 2020, Forbes estimated her total lifetime philanthropic impact at over $600 million, one of the highest by any individual entertainer in history. But perhaps the most remarkable part of this legacy is that Oprah never did it for recognition. She did it because she remembered. Remembered the little girl in Mississippi who once wore dresses made from potato sacks. Remembered the teacher who said she was special. Remembered the moment she realized knowledge could open any door. That girl became a woman who built keys for millions. The weight of influence, from public praise to political power. By the late 2000s, Oprah's name had become more than a brand. It was a force of social gravity. Every word, every endorsement, every public stance she took rippled through the world like a headline. And nowhere was that power more visible than in 2008, during one of the most transformative elections in modern American history. When Oprah Winfrey publicly endorsed Barack Obama for president, she didn't just show support, she shifted history. Political analysts later calculated that Oprah's endorsement contributed up to 1 million votes to Obama's campaign, a level of individual influence never seen before in U.S. politics. Her rally appearances drew crowds larger than some candidates' entire tours. People didn't just come to see Obama, they came because Oprah believed in him. And when Oprah believes, people move. But her influence didn't stop at politics. She used her platform to confront global issues, from poverty and racial justice to gender equality and mental health. In 2018, at the Golden Globe Awards, Oprah received the Cecil B. DeMille Lifetime Achievement Award. Her speech that night transcended Hollywood. Speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have. That moment sparked global conversation. Hashtags trended, movements reignited. For many, it was the unofficial anthem of the #MeToo era. Reporters called it a political earthquake in real time. Social scientists called it cultural leadership at scale. But Oprah never chased politics, she chased purpose. As she once said, "My role is not to tell people who to be, it's to remind them that they already are somebody." That belief turned her from talk show host to global conscience, a bridge between the powerful and the powerless. And through every cause she touched, from election rallies to social movements, Oprah carried one message. Power isn't about control, it's about contribution. The world didn't just listen to Oprah, it followed her. Beyond the screen, Oprah's mastery of modern media and streaming. The world changed. Television wasn't just television anymore. It was YouTube, streaming, podcasts, and social media. For many old-school media giants, this change meant decline, but not for Oprah. While others saw disruption, Oprah saw a new frontier of storytelling. In 2011, she launched the Oprah Winfrey Network, OWN, a bold experiment in cable television built entirely on purpose-driven content. At first, OWN struggled. Ratings were low. Critics said she had lost her touch. But Oprah did what she always does. She listened, learned, and adapted. Soon, OWN found its rhythm, blending reality series, documentaries, and spiritual talk shows that mirrored Oprah's evolving message: we are all works in progress. Then came the streaming revolution. Netflix, Apple TV+, Amazon Prime. The world had gone digital. And once again, Oprah refused to be left behind. In 2018, she signed a multi-year partnership with Apple TV+, bringing Oprah's Book Club and the Oprah Conversation to a global audience. No longer bound by studio walls, her voice now reached every screen, every country, every ear. She didn't just follow the digital trend, she defined it on her own terms. Even her podcasts and YouTube presence became masterclasses in timeless communication, authentic, reflective, and deeply human. And behind the camera, Oprah quietly invested in tech-driven media startups, mentorship programs for young filmmakers, and new storytellers across Africa and beyond. The medium changed, the mission didn't. As she once said, "I'm not in the business of television, I'm in the business of connection." Oprah's genius was never about chasing trends. It was about chasing truth through any tool available. From talk shows to TikTok, from live studio audiences to streaming subscribers, her message remains the same. Your story matters. Because platforms evolve, but purpose never goes out of style. Philanthropy as legacy. The global impact of Oprah's generosity. For Oprah Winfrey, success was never measured by the size of her empire. It was measured by the number of lives she could touch. From the earliest days of her talk show, Oprah believed that giving was not charity, it was responsibility. She once said, "To whom much is given, much is required." And she lived by those words every single day. Over the decades, Oprah has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to education, healthcare, and women's empowerment around the world. But her giving was never just about money. It was about hope, structure, and sustainability. In 2007, she opened the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa, a $40 million investment in the next generation of African women leaders. The academy began with just 152 girls, but what it represented was far bigger, a promise that no child's background should limit her destiny. Oprah didn't just cut the ribbon and leave. She became personally involved in the students' lives, visiting regularly, writing letters, mentoring, and ensuring every graduate received a college education. Today, the Academy's alumni have gone on to become doctors, lawyers, and entrepreneurs, living proof of what happens when education meets compassion. But Oprah's generosity didn't stop there. Through the Oprah Winfrey Foundation and Angel Network, she funded thousands of scholarships, built schools, supplied relief to disaster zones, and supported small communities in need, often quietly, without headlines. She once told CNN, "The best part of having money is not buying things. It's having the power to make a difference." And that difference rippled through every continent, from rural classrooms in Kenya to hurricane shelters in New Orleans. Even in her talk show days, Oprah turned acts of giving into national movements. The famous "you get a car" moment wasn't about vehicles, it was about possibility. She gave to remind the world that abundance isn't luck, it's a tool to lift others. Oprah's philanthropy isn't just part of her story, it's her soul translated into action. Because in the end, real success isn't what you keep, it's what you give back. The Billionaire of Hearts: How Oprah Redefined Wealth and Spiritual Success. In a world obsessed with luxury and status, Oprah Winfrey did something radical. She redefined wealth. For Oprah, being rich was never about having more, it was about being more. By the time she became the first Black woman billionaire in history, Oprah had already begun asking a deeper question. What does success mean if your soul is starving? This question became the foundation of her next evolution, a journey into spiritual consciousness, gratitude, and emotional freedom. Through her platform, Oprah began teaching millions that true abundance doesn't come from accumulation, but from alignment. On Super Soul Sunday, she invited thought leaders like Eckhart Tolle, Deepak Chopra, and Iyanla Vanzant to explore the unseen dimensions of life, faith, healing, purpose, and presence. Her interviews turned into global therapy sessions. Each question she asked felt like a mirror, forcing her guests and the audience to look inward. Quote, "You don't become what you want, you become what you believe." That simple truth reshaped millions of lives. Oprah's message was clear. Wealth without wisdom is poverty in disguise. And she practiced what she preached. Despite her billionaire status, she lives with remarkable simplicity. Her mornings often begin with meditation, reading, and gratitude journaling, not meetings. She owns magnificent properties, yet she says her greatest mansion is peace of mind. To Oprah, money is energy. It flows where purpose leads. And her purpose was never the material, it was the spiritual harvest that follows when you plant seeds of kindness and authenticity. This is why audiences worldwide trust her voice. She doesn't speak from a mountaintop of privilege. She speaks from the valley she once climbed out of. And maybe that's why Oprah remains timeless, not because of what she owns, but because of what she's learned to let go of. In redefining wealth, she redefined freedom itself. Storms and scars: Oprah's hidden battles behind the spotlight. Behind every spotlight lies a shadow. And even for Oprah Winfrey, the woman the world sees as unshakable, there were moments of breaking. Her story is not just one of triumphs, it's also one of trauma, survival, and healing. Long before the fame, Oprah endured pain that could have destroyed anyone. As a child, she was abused, neglected, and silenced. By age 14, she was pregnant, a moment she's described as her deepest valley. The baby died shortly after birth. Most people never recover from such wounds, but Oprah turned her pain into purpose. On her talk show, she broke cultural taboos, giving survivors of abuse a voice, creating national conversations around shame, trauma, and forgiveness. She once said, "The reason I can be so open about my pain is because I am no longer owned by it." That quote defined a generation of healing. Still, behind the scenes, the battles continued. Exhaustion, loneliness, and the crushing pressure of being everyone's source of light. Friends describe moments when Oprah would cry privately, questioning whether she'd given too much of herself to the world. She admitted once, "I've spent years learning how to fill my own cup, so that I can pour from fullness and not from emptiness." That became one of her most powerful life lessons: self-care as survival. The more the world demanded, the more she leaned into spirituality and solitude. She found peace in meditation, prayer, and nature, quiet spaces that reminded her she was human before she was a brand. When close friends like Maya Angelou passed away, Oprah called it one of her hardest emotional losses of her life. Maya had been her mother figure, her mentor, her anchor. But even then, she didn't retreat from life. She used grief as her teacher. She told an audience once, "Maya taught me that when people show you who they are, believe them the first time." These lessons, carved from pain, became the quiet architecture of Oprah's soul. For every headline of her success, there were countless unseen nights of tears and questions. But Oprah understood what few ever do, that suffering is not the opposite of greatness, it's the foundation of it. The storms that broke her heart also baptized her strength. And those scars, they didn't disfigure her legacy, they defined it. Because Oprah's real magic was never her wealth or her fame. It was her willingness to heal in public, showing millions that broken doesn't mean defeated. She turned wounds into wisdom. And that, more than anything else, is why she remains unforgettable. The eternal influence, Oprah's legacy and the future she built. The story of Oprah Winfrey isn't just the story of a woman. It's the story of human potential unleashed. From a dirt-poor farm in Mississippi to global stages where presidents and kings now listen to her words, Oprah's journey has become the ultimate case study in transformation. But beyond the numbers, the fame, or the awards, her greatest legacy is invisible. It lives in the quiet hearts she healed. It echoes in the courage she inspired. It breathes in every person who decided, after hearing her speak, that they were enough. Oprah taught us that power isn't what you hold, it's what you release into the world. She built an empire, yes, but she also built an energy, a vibration of authenticity, love, and awakening that reshaped modern culture. Think about it. How many lives have been changed because one woman dared to talk openly about pain, dreams, faith, and failure on daytime television? She turned conversation into revolution. As the world moves deeper into the digital age, her legacy continues through her books, her shows, her streaming partnerships, and the millions she has mentored without ever meeting. Future generations may not know her first broadcast, but they will feel her fingerprints in every story that dares to tell the truth. Because Oprah didn't just open doors, she built entire corridors for others to walk through. Her graduates are now leading companies, creating nonprofits, and lifting communities, spreading the same light that once lifted them. She once said, "Your legacy is every life you've touched." And by that definition, Oprah's legacy is eternal. In the quiet of her Montecito garden, she still writes, she still listens, she still believes. Because for Oprah, life was never about how far she went, it was about how many she took with her. She changed the language of success, from having it all to becoming whole. She turned entertainment into enlightenment. She turned struggle into strategy. She turned wounds into wisdom. And in doing so, Oprah Winfrey gave the world a masterclass on what it truly means to live. As the credits of her life roll on, her voice still whispers to every dreamer watching from the dark. You are not defined by where you start. You are defined by how you rise. Because some stories don't end. They just become the light that guides others home. Subscribe to FactsXUp if you believe success leaves clues. and we're here to uncover them all.